This fifth episode, titled The Crown's Fate, is interesting. A lot of changes that were made, which we'll talk about, of course. Some I liked, some I didn't, but that's the usual every week. I gotta put my disclaimer that the goal of this video is to see what was actually cut, what was enhanced with additions, and what sort of potential impacts it has for world building and storytelling for this series. It's obvious that things have to be cut for an adaptation, but this is less of a negative critique and more of what effects these cuts/changes have. This week, the anime covered chapters 23 to 26, a total of 4 chapters. Just to put a little perspective, there's about 8 episodes left and we need to get through about 50 chapters, so there's bound to be stuff cut out. I stream every week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays on Twitch, so come through if you're interested. Please like and subscribe if you like these videos every week. Getting really close to the 100 subscriber mark here on YouTube. Now, let's begin. So we get a continuation of round 3 of the Crown game. With chapter 23 in the webtoon, we get the flashback with some explanation of the briefcase that Kun has and of its duplicating abilities. We actually get more from the end of chapter 22 because in the webtoon, after this flashback, we actually move to round 4. I thought round 3 was actually wrapped up in episode 4, but we get an extra 2 to 3 minutes here in episode 5. Shibuya explaining why Kun threw the duplicate away was fine. I really didn't like the camera sounds for the flashbacks for this scene. They happened way too quickly. It was a little annoying to hear that click over and over again in such a small period of time. The studio has handled flashbacks in general well, so I don't know why they chose this approach. I like the change from the knives falling out from the bag from the webtoon to crowns to emphasize the duplicating power of using it for the crowns itself. We do get more knives later in round 5, which is good to show some continuity. Since we're back in round 3, I'll make the same point that I made last time, that I wanted Kun and Rock to attack in unison to protect Bomb, and not have Rock, especially in this episode, just solo everyone. We know both are strong, but the harmony we see in the webtoon is missing here in the anime. And the crack in the wall by the spear to throwing the regular spinning by Rock were all really nice animations though, I enjoyed it. So chapter 23 in the webtoon gets picked up again after this wrap up of round 3. Chapter 23 covers round 4 of the Crown game, which in the anime covers round 4 in about 5 to 6 minutes, which is a pretty good pace for a quick round. I think round 4 is the second fastest round, as round 1 was the quickest because round 1 only had 2 teams and Anna soloed them. I like the subversion of Androsi here, with the anime only seen at the end of round 3, where she says those guys actually seem to believe they'll win, and it also clarifies that they won't join until the last round. It was a little vague at the end of episode 4 if Androsi's team was actually going to join immediately or wait, but here we get that clarification that they're going to wait till the round 5. We get an interesting clarification from Kun. Bomb says the bag can copy anything is amazing, and Kun corrects him by saying a bag that can also copy. I think this means that the bag has multiple functions, like holding people and objects without copying, but I'm not too sure why the studio decided to make this distinction and spend, any amount of time for this distinction. I love the new interactions with Rock talking to Kun about flexing, and Kun getting all close to Bomb while they chill in this 4th round. The webtoon was pretty unclear as to who was on Kun's side, or it was unclear to me when I first read it, but the anime makes it very obvious. Instead of the white shirt dude getting knocked out first, it was that I'm gonna call him the green blob because we never got the name. I like the changes as it flows way better than the webtoon here. The anime stressed Kun's hatred to follow rules, so it's nice to see that this is the embodiment of him fighting the system. In the webtoon chapter, we get a clarification about Kun going to the bathroom to tell these regulars in his bag/briefcase what happened, and we see it happen in the webtoon. But in the anime, he just talks about going to the bathroom, but he was with Bomb the entire time, so there's that disconnect. Like, when did he actually go to the bathroom? We never see him make the excuse to leave the group. I think it's fine since it's still conveyed well how sneaky and smart Kun is, but it makes it a little harder for people to pick up on that foreshadowing. Granted, people that read the webtoon, know what happens, so it's easier for us to know what's going to happen, but for anime only, it was a little hard. Not everyone picked up that Kun had this plan, or something was going on with the bag before this scene. Although we're starting to see the closeness of the team, I really wanted the line at the end of the chapter in the webtoon to be shown in the anime more profoundly. So Kun says, I want to win and go up to the tower with you guys. And although Kun does say it in the anime, I thought a single shot of Kun with the serious super serious face would sell it a little more than what we got in the anime. But that's just me being a little nitpicky there. So chapter 24 is the start of round 5, and it ends with Rachel standing in front of Bomb. In the anime, we don't get the hands of the buzzer. Like the anime in general hasn't been putting hands on the buzzer like in the webtoon, which is good because it's better to just show the number of teams. Although because of the space itself, the number of teams surrounding the throne actually looks small in comparison to how many teams we have. At least round 3 looked crowded, and this round 5 has the same amount of teams. I like the new scene of a pause before the round 5 actually starts, with Bomb staring fondly. I mean, maybe not fondly, but confusingly at Rachel, wondering if it's actually her. It kind of really slows down the moment before all the action starts up again. And we didn't get that in the webtoon, but again, with a webtoon, you can just pause and stare at a panel longer. With anime, it has to keep flowing. So this pause was deliberate and really serves its purpose. Hwoarang is just going off was done so well because she was just beating people up left and right. And they accentuated her figure a lot as it moves around destroying regulars. I do have one issue, and this is a problem in both the webtoon and the anime, of character inconsistency. So we learn about the Dayan clan / tribe back in episode 2 and in chapter 6. So episode 2 of the anime, chapter 6 of the webtoon, about their mild temperaments and how they don't actually attack even in deathmatch situations, like in the first test of floor 2. So why is this Dayan attacking Hwoarang here? Is it because of his red eyes? Because he's different? I don't really buy that. In the webtoon, the Dayan's eyes weren't even red, so it was just countering the explanation given before about this tribe that was established earlier. I think it's, a little bit of inconsistency, but that's coming from the webtoon itself. It isn't just anime only. I think the anime tried to fix it by putting red eyes to show that he's enraged or something, but a lot of people had some issues with just character designs in general. But I guess because this first test or this floor is supposed to be a bunch of regulars from throughout the tower coming together, they're not supposed to be, matching or any kind of synergy between these character designs, because each floor is significantly different from the other. But this is the one gripe I had. I like the addition of the dog / wolfman saying you're with them too, showing what the effects of round 4 have on round 5, as people assuming Kun still has more allies even though he doesn't. The foreshadowing here is also cool because, well, Hwoarang is with Bomb technically, but Hwoarang is right now more so with Rachel's team. Kun isn't the only one who formed alliances for the future. We get a little extension of the fight with Hwoarang and Rock, and I like the mid exclamation face that Rock has as Hwoarang goes for his face. This is a really nice touch and flows really well with the fight sequence. Instead of in the webtoon where Hwoarang just gets to Bomb and Bomb tries to hold his ground by saying he'll defend the crown until the end, the anime keeps the fast-paced action by having Androsi come in and start fighting before Hwoarang even gets to Bomb. And we end with Bomb thinking, wait, what? Is that Rachel? So chapter 25 is when Rachel tries to protect Bomb, but of course she's useless, and ends with Bomb leaving the throne to protect Rachel, and we get a glimpse of Yuri's team. The anime shows us the one-on-one fights of Rock and Kun, where Kun's is fun because he uses the knives in the briefcase in a diversion to go for the strike, which is new and great, and Rock also just uses brute force his way through his opponent, showing us in the anime clearly the difference in battle tactics of each member of the team will take. The positioning of Rachel, Ghost, and Bomb is a little awkward because at first Ghost is, completely blocking Bomb, and then we get another shot and Ghost and Rachel are parallel to each other, so it was a little confusing for me to follow through, but that's just placement of characters in the space itself. They cut out Bomb's thoughts about Rachel not answering, which is fine because I don't think it really adds that much, and because we don't have those thoughts, we give more emphasis on Kun and Rock fighting, which is good. The fight with Hwoarang and Androsi was amazing, and we see very clearly in the fight why Androsi stumbles, with the sound of the heel cracking to the visual crack, which is cool. In the webtoon, she just kind of stumbles and that's it, but this they gave thought and process to. Why would she stumble? Well, her heel broke. So they kind of depicted it in this fight sequence. Although we don't get some of Androsi's snarky remarks, like, what are you staring at? Am I pretty? To Androsi getting in Hwoarang's face just to say, look closer if you want. Which really tells us about her character and just how cocky. She's almost as cocky as Anak, but in a different manner. And we don't really get that, but hopefully we get more of her personality and character when, personality and character is supposed to be developed in the next test in the positioning. In the webtoon, we see that Anak's plan was to use Androsi as bait to get Bomb to lose, which which is exactly what happens, except Androsi's team doesn't want the crown. We lose this in the anime as Anna just stares, because earlier in episode 3, when Anna got disturbed by Loru, she says that the bait wasn't for you in the webtoon, which is to imply that Androsi was the bait. Since this part was cut out in the anime, there's no need for this extra commentary here in episode 5 from Anak. Another thing we miss from the webtoon is Androsi's shields to counter Hwoarang's floating staff. We learn kind of from the webtoon that Hwoarang can use Shinso on her staff like Hats with his highest flying sword, but we don't get that interaction of the fight here. Although it's pretty minor, so it's okay, and we'll probably see Androsi's shields later on in the hide and seek test, so it's fine. I actually really like the color gradient eyeliner that Androsi has, because it really makes her eyes pop out a lot, but she's nothing compared to her accentuated best girl Hwoarang. At least the anime shows Rachel struggle a little bit by dodging the first few attacks by Hwoarang, and Bomb of course goes to the protection and gets whacked in the head. I really like the effect in the webtoon of the panels actually cracking as Bomb is bleeding out and does his Shinso thing, and the panel in the webtoon really showed the frustration that Bomb was facing. I'll talk about the big Shinso show in a bit, but let's talk about Yuri's team first. We missed something really important in the Yuri scene in the anime. We lose the talk about going to war with Evan Cole, and Evan, the guide, saying, well, look at our rank, we're not going to war, idiot. We also lose a part about the one path being shorter, but it's filled with white steel eels, while the other path is easier, and Yuri just kind of questioning everything. This shows us just how strong Bomb is, that even high rankers themselves would have troubles going through Shinso where these white steel eel inhabit. We learn about how Yuri is as oblivious as she can get, because she also was born with high resistance to Shinso, and we get that interaction in the webtoon that Yuri intends to give this pin to Bomb once they meet again in floor 2. So we lose a lot of characterization, right? This little segue gives us so much characterization of how dangerous Bomb is compared to the over-the-top Shinso explosion he does when he lashes out at Hwoarang. And so I wonder, what are they gonna do? Is Bomb never gonna get this pin because it was never addressed here? I'm not really sure. I mean, granted, he still doesn't have the pin, so maybe the studio took it out because they didn't think it was relevant, but we'll see. So in the webtoon, this Shinso explosion, we never actually see it happen. We just see the crack in the mask and everyone going, oh, what's going on? But in the anime, they give us this blast of Shinso, one pillar from the middle and 6 branches as well, all shooting out. Shinso of a different color than we've seen yet in the anime. So it's more yellow. It's still watery, but it's yellowy water. And all of this results into Hwoarang just getting cut in her eye. If we only had gotten a single shot aimed at her eye, it would be odd because Bomb shouldn't have that kind of control. So this erratic nature of Bomb Shinso here is fine. I just think that it's a little over the top. But in the medium of anime, again, people don't just pause the video every time just to see some flashy display. So in that regard, this does work. But I think that what this does is weaken Bomb when he actually learns Shinso the next episode. So it'll probably not be, I mean, of course, it'll not be as over the top as this Shinso that we just saw was. As people have pointed out, the regulars are blown away by this Shinso, but Liroro is just sitting there confused because it's not the amount of Shinso that he used, it's how Bomb pulled it off. We get a really new scene with the Black March that time freezes essentially. Although this is pretty different, what I'm most against about this entire scene is the murderous intent in Bomb's eyes and his body, as it looks like he's ready to kill Hwoarang. Although it's reasonable to assume that Bomb will do what he must to protect Rachel, Hwoarang is already injured and is not attacking right now. Even in season 2, when Bomb is ready to kill Ron and Novik for hurting Hwoarang, the devil's right arm, Bomb doesn't have this kind of face. Although Bomb does have more facial expressions in the anime for sure, but this face and this, action that Bomb's about to do in the anime doesn't seem like Bomb. So that's why I like the Black March scene, to reset the emotions and knock him out. Someone on Reddit said that the Black March is known to use reverse Shinso flow from one of SIU's blog posts, and I've tried to find it to back up that statement, but looking through old blog posts is very hard for me. Like I can't find a reliable source. So I think I'll just take their word here and say that this is how the anime will depict reverse Shinso flow. So we'll see in the hide and seek if they actually use the same effect to confirm this hypothesis that we have. Chapter 26 is the lull period after the crown game and before the position testing begins. We see the aftermaths of the crown game and that Androsi's team never picked up the crown at the end of round 5 in the webtoon. Although in the anime, Bomb just destroys the crown, so we never get to see the choice that Androsi's team actually makes here. This is just assuming that they would never take it, but like the point of the crown to still exist is for it to still exist. So we missed the part about the heights of the test administrator. Although it's not relevant here in season 1, we learn in the most current chapters of the webtoon, especially I think it's season 3 episode 58, I believe, is this panel. The panel from chapter 26 was the basis for Evanko's decompression, and we lose that reference in the anime completely. Of course, while the anime was actually adapting this work, Evanko's true form wasn't really brought up until about a month ago, so it's understandable that the studio thought it was irrelevant to the overall story, because I'm pretty sure everyone forgot about this. Because of the various cuts about the instant coffee, this scene in the anime where Literaro questions why Yu Hansong calls it a latte but gives instant coffee kind of loses a little bit of its humor compared to the webtoon, because in the webtoon we kind of get constant references to instant coffee, latte, all that stuff, but here it's kind of cut out a little bit, or a lot in the anime, so it doesn't hit as different. But it's not really a big issue because the coffee isn't the main focus of this scene. We get some changes, as in the anime, Literaro says that Hidan made the rule that acquaintances can't test together on floor 2, but does that mean that Hidan has powers outside of floor 1? We know that he can travel to other floors to recruit regulars into the inner tower, but that's all we know about his powers. Why would Hidan have a say in another floor's test administration when each floor has its own administrator? This really changes the lore up a bit. And in the webtoon it just says, Literaro doesn't refer to Hidan, he just says acquaintances. There's a rule that acquaintances can't take tests together. I'm glad that when Literaro actually leaves, he says to himself not to fall for Yu Ha-song's reasoning. This is a pretty interesting change that makes, Yu Ha-song seem more menacing. We know he looks pretty menacing, and there's a lot of foreshadowing hints for it, like I'm a genius and whatnot, but this shows that Literaro is actively trying to come up with alternate explanations for what is going on, especially with the crown game. It's an interesting change that they made to Yu Ha-song, saying that both Quant and Literaro are annoying to his plan, but in completely different ways. In the webtoon, I think Yu Ha-song just calls Quant stupid, unlike Literaro, but this kind of gives emphasis to, even though Quant is stupid, he's still affecting the plan. Although it's implied, I hope we don't get cut of Anak and Shibusu trying to activate the Black March, because that was a pretty interesting moment and kind of gives us reason why Yuri ends up being the one to actually activate both of them in the Floor of Death in season 2, and not Anak, who has possession of 2 of the 13-month weapons way earlier. I love that they actually cut. I actually really like that they cut out Yurik's name reveal the 2 other times they should have or could have introduced him. I think the anime saved that for this reveal. The back and the reveal happening right after all this talk about irregulars and how normal people shouldn't just move Shinso, and that flashy display was perfect timing. It was really, really well executed. With Leiraro's monologue in the anime, we get him saying that bomb equals Shinso, which is not right. I'm not sure if this is a mistranslation or something, but the inherent nature of the Shinso that moved was what was important, not that bomb was the Shinso itself. The webtoon makes this clear by stating that it wasn't the actual manipulation of Shinso, but how it was manipulated. That the Shinso moved on its own to protect Bomb. That's quite different from Bomb as Shinso and the pure embodiment of Shinso, because that's not why Leiraro was confused and started questioning everything. All in all, it was a pretty good episode with plenty of action, and Kun is the highlight with his 200 IQ plays, and we'll see a lot more of Kun's, strategies throughout the season. I'm still unsure about the whole Shinso thing and the implications of what that has, but excited for the training to begin next episode. Again, I want to point out, I don't hate the choices that the directors make for this episode, because again, it's really hard to choose what needs to be taken out and what needs to be added to make the story whole. Just my thoughts on the episode. That's all for the video. If you get a chance, subscribe to get access to these reviews every week. My social media can be found by searching Inspirational on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Shout out to my designer. You can find his work on Instagram at chatandv_photography. Shout out to my editor. You can find him on Twitter at YoungObesity. See you all next time.